All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Millennials World podcast. And you know what, Brian? I've been thinking, right? It's interesting to me that we haven't recorded in almost a month at this point. And honestly, Brian, recently it's made me sad. But more importantly, it's made me feel like a fucking jackass. Would you agree with that, Brian?
I would agree that you're a fucking jackass.
Thanks, man.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way.
No, it's all good. You are always calling me a little man, maybe a wee man. You're always making me feel like I should fucking move away from Wisconsin, maybe to a fucking Hickville city like Knoxville, maybe.
I think it'd be better for you and for the state of Wisconsin, to be honest. Maybe, find something more exciting to do.
No, absolutely. It's really making me feel like I should take up a job raking the lawn. Okay, I'm done with this horrible bit. But either way, this week we are going to be talking about the Gen X and elder millennial phenomena known as Jackass. Because you know what, Brian? We really need to talk about this shit because, frankly, it's the hottest it's ever been. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's the hottest it's ever been. And it is right now just because of where it's at as a franchise, but also because of the current cultural moment and the way that, online content has evolved. It is probably the most relevant that it's been since it first kind of blew up and became a commodity on MTV.
No, absolutely. So without further ado, let's get into our retrospective on Jackass. But before we get into it, Brian, let's bring back our segment, Cringe Generational Chris Millennial Moment of the Week. Woo! Yeah! All right. And it is my week to pick the topic as a recording. So, of course, I picked Jackass. But you know what, Brian? Speaking of people who are jackasses, and somebody we talked about a long time ago, but has had a metric fuck ton of information came out about them. I think, Brian, you know exactly who the fuck I want to talk about. I want to come back to D4Vid. How are you feeling about D4Vid at this point, Brian?
Great. Every time I learn something more about D4Vid, mostly I feel sad. I feel sad for his fans. I feel sad that his artistic and musical career got cut short. But what can you do? We've all been young, we've all been impulsive, we all make mistakes, we've all made some bad music. But it's just a shame to see it turn out this way. The more information comes out, the more you just think maybe there could have been another way. And then everything you learn about the guy, you think, oh no, they're really the only two ways were that this freak died in obscurity or did this. Truly.
No, absolutely. And the last time we talked about him, he hadn't even been arrested yet, which we were shocked by at the time that he hadn't been arrested yet, because I think to literally 99% of people that weren't D4Vid stans, it was so obvious he was guilty. And obviously there needs to be a whole judicial process to actually confirm his guilt. Of course, we believe in due process. But let's be honest here. He should have been arrested fucking immediately. There really shouldn't have been any delay, at least in an arrest. The fact that there was even that delay is kind of shocking to me, because if a dead child was found in my car, I would have gotten arrested immediately. I'm just being honest.
Yeah. Well, it's also the more time went on, it started to feel kind of surreal. Because obviously they were waiting because they didn't want him to get away. They're building their case. They're making sure they have all their ducks in a row. But then as more time went on, you'd catch yourself thinking are they going to arrest him? You start getting nervous about it. What was the time between the time that Celeste was found and his arrest?
It was 7 months. It was legitimately
I was going to say 2 months, 7 months. So I was thinking towards the end, you're starting to worry that maybe they're going to not arrest him, right? Because it's been going on so long. Now what we're seeing with this trial is that the treasure trove of evidence available to them. The case started with such hard to argue against evidence. It was circumstantial and otherwise. But now what is coming out in this trial, now that we're at this point, is more, I think, than anyone possibly could have predicted.
No, absolutely. It's so fucking heinous, all the shit that's come out about D4Vid since then. It was obvious, of course, that he was grooming Celeste, of course. And we obviously assume that he's a pedophile. Especially in the genre of music that he makes. 99% of those people are pedophiles. Let's just be honest here. That wasn't particularly shocking. Horrible, but not particularly fucking shocking. But also, the fact that she, I believe, within the last week or two, it's been confirmed that she had gotten pregnant and they'd gotten an abortion.
Yeah.
At 13 years old. And the text that Celeste had sent David about that, and of course David had sent back, it's this is a 13-year-old. This conversation is something that you would hear about a 28-year-old one night stand that you had, not a 13-year-old child. It is so depraved. It's so depressing. And another update actually is that Celeste's parents were confirmed to have signed off on the travel waivers for Celeste to go overseas. We didn't know that at the time, and I remember
were trying to reserve judgment against her parents. I think we really danced around how we felt about that because we were waiting to see what information came out. Obviously, that's a thing that you would not imagine a parent to do, and you want to not judge a parent who's going through this. But hard not to look at this and go, oh, it's somehow become so much darker than it was just to find that poor little girl's body just thrown away in this stupid fucking car, you know?
No, absolutely. And like, I remember when we talked about it, I think we talked about it maybe actually another episode after we talked about the initial body being found.
Yeah.
But I do remember specifically saying that Celeste's parents were at the very least like criminally negligent. And
yeah,
I was pretty dead on for the money on that one because like, I'm sorry, no matter who the guy is, no matter if he's like the most upstanding motherfucker in the world, why would you sign off on your middle school child going to another continent alone with that person? That's insane. Yeah. I'm sorry, that's fucking nuts. Unless they are like an immediate relative that you know personally, and even then that can go wrong. But like some random guy, and the dad has made a statement was like, we didn't even know who David was. Like, oh yeah, that's why you signed off on a travel waiver to go to London, you fucking asshole.
Yeah, that makes even less sense.
It's so negligent. And to me, and I don't really know if this is going to come across, but now that I know this for sure, I would not be surprised if there was some sort of payment to her parents. I genuinely think that's a possibility at this point.
To me, that is the only thing I could imagine. Obviously, I'm not a fucking detective. I'm not a psychiatrist. I cannot imagine anything else. The thing that
we knew David paid off people because there's literally pictures of him paying off her classmates.
Yeah, we know that. We know that David paid off classmates. One of the things that I've seen some people say, and this is kind of a thing that I even remember hearing parents say stuff like this when their kids have been in trouble around school. It's like, well, she's just going to sneak out and see him anyway, so at least now I'm facilitating getting her there, and then I know she's not hiding it from me. And I've heard people kind of echo that sentiment, and it's mind-boggling to me, because in a situation like this, it wouldn't have happened. Again, the ultimate blame lies on David, of course, but it wouldn't have happened if her parents had not allowed for this travel. The relationship would not have butted in this way if they had stopped it, which is your job as a parent when something like this begins to take form.
No, absolutely. And like, it's unfortunately just extremely common, especially for, poor and working class, especially, young girls of color, to be groomed by much older men. It's unfortunately very common. But like the vast majority of girls that this happens to, when the parents get involved, guess what? It stops. And that's what you had to do. You enabling this led to this happening. Let's be very clear here. And like the way David was going, let's be honest here, he just had to find the weakest target he was going to do. Unfortunately, that's just how predators work. But like any other fucking parent would have seen every single red flag coming at them. It would have been like fucking, it would have been like Red Square during the Victory March or whatever, like Victory Day.
Well, that's part of the thing.
That's how depraved this motherfucker is. And the fact that you signed off on a travel waiver, and on top of it, almost certainly, in my opinion, and we're not saying this as a fact, because of course, if we say any definitive statement, that could get us, legally in trouble, obviously. But they are reprehensible parents, like just objectively speaking, reprehensibly bad parents at the very, very minimum, if not criminally negligent at the very worst. And
when you talk about the grooming thing, David, I'm pretty sure knew Celeste to some degree when she was 10, prior to his musical career. Am I remembering this right?
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they began contact when she was 11 and he was 16, but I could be wrong about that. I believe those were the
predating his musical career.
Absolutely, predating his prominent music
here is a very methodical thing. So some of the information that we've had, even going back to before David was arrested, indicates that Celeste, like a lot of kids in working class families and things, was sometimes unhappy with her home life. Seems like, and this again, it's not all kinds of dysfunctional families. This is not in any way a statement about family problems. But that age, when you have communication problems with your family, when you're unhappy with your home life, you're so desperate to get out. And it seems pretty obvious that David, he would have known about that. Because again, they were fucking Discord friends when she was 11. So he has all the resources in the world. When he suddenly has people listening to his shitty fucking music, he has all the resources in the world and all the knowledge. He's already got her grooved by that point, it seems like. The last line of defense there is for her parents to do what any parent should do. And again, maybe they did. Maybe there's something we're missing out on here, and just not allow it, to push back against it somehow.
No, absolutely. And, another detail that we learned on the various proceedings is that David made $11 million in his career. $11 million, which is just an insane amount of money. I mean, obviously, there are plenty of musicians who make way more than that, but like, this guy was somebody
he was active.
Yeah, in the time that he was active. Because, like, let's not forget, he's only like, I think, what, 21 years old, 20 years old?
Yeah.
He's very fucking young. And another detail that is just so fucking disturbing is, like I said, all the texts that we have now come across. And like, it is obvious that not only were they having sex, she had gotten pregnant, there was an abortion. There were leading up texts basically indicating that, you know, of course, Celeste was going to expose him for being a pedophile, which, you know, once again, in that genre would not have been a death knell, unfortunately, because it's extremely common.
Yeah,
but either
no.
way, he saw the way out as killing this girl, you know, staging it as she disappeared, you know, texting multiple times like, hey, where are you, whatever, as like an alibi. And then he was going to, you know, burn her body later after cutting up her body parts. He wanted to go on tour first, or I guess it maybe just coincided and he didn't have the time to properly dispose of it as he saw fit. And that's, of course, when the car was towed, they, you know, smelt the smell of decomposition, which is completely unfucking mistakable. And that's when this really all, you know, just unfolded. And on top of it, too, because of the Tesla records, and of course, once again, the fact that you own a Tesla, if you're going to murder somebody and transport a body, a Tesla is the fucking worst car you could do that with. Because not only is there a frunk, so like it's pretty hard to like not have people be like, why does the front of the car smell like a dead body? Like the Tesla fucking records indicated he was the very last person to drive that car. He is so fucking guilty. He is 110% guilty. He might be the most guilty person we will ever talk about on this show. Like just straight up, like he has nothing. Like straight up, like I remember the defense argued that Celeste killed herself. That was an argument they brought up.
She chopped herself up with a chainsaw.
Chopped herself up with a chainsaw, stabbed herself, and then David was so fucking distraught that he fucking cut her up and didn't tell anybody. I'm sure everyone's gonna fucking believe
like a very loving boyfriend.
Stabbed so deep, by the way, that she got punctured in her liver. That's not, even if somebody wanted to kill themselves, that would never happen. That just doesn't happen.
I wonder what's going on the David subreddit. Let's just take a real quick look.
Well, the David subreddit got shut down because he was a mod of the David subreddit.
Yeah. There still is R. David.
The R. David, when the last post was like, hey guys, I'm sure he's reading this, he's totally going to turn himself in. And that was the last post ever on the original R. David.
Yeah. Actually, it does look like this has been abandoned. I was just wanted to see if there were any David defenders left, you know.
I don't think there could possibly really be any defenders unless they're literally like the most negative attention, poison, TikTok, like fucking 14-year-old edgelords you could possibly find. No, it's not that fucking good. Like his music was very middling, very boring. It really reeked of that sort of TikTok music style where it's like, oh, I'm going to make a 2-minute song that's, you know, has a very minimalist beat and you could make fucking like in an hour. And like, I just hate that kind of fucking music so goddamn much. And like, you know, don't get me wrong, right? Like if you want to do that as like a hobby or you're having fun, what the fuck ever, but you shouldn't make money on such low effort shit. I'm sorry. Like that is not a thing you should make $11 million for.
There are people that do the TikTok music that this is actually a guy we'll talk about on a future episode, but there are people doing the TikTok music that I think are pretty fun. David, to me, what's crazy about it is every song he does sounds the same. And when you know all the stuff with Celeste, and I will wrap this up soon, I'm sorry, but one of the creepiest things to me is it all seemed like he was making this music to make money, to do fucking soundtracks for his fucking video game footage, but like these songs are about like this girl. Like his biggest hit is called Romantic Homicide. It's fucking weird.
It is. It's fucking weird. It's depraved. And like I said, we will definitely talk about David at another point. I'm really hoping that the trial starts fairly soon. I mean, like, once again, it's just a foregone conclusion. He's going to be found guilty of at least something significant. Like, there is literally no way he will not spend pretty much the rest of his life in prison. Whether he gets the death penalty or life in prison is the question, but like, there's literally no fucking way he gets out of prison on this. There's just so much evidence, and there's no way to explain out of it. Yeah. Like, theoretically, he could, you know, get sentenced to like 40 to life or something and maybe get paroled at like 72, but like the likelihood of that is even less likely. Yeah. Like I said, we'll definitely cover this, especially as the trial starts and maybe even as the trial ends, and we'll come back to it as like a, you know, circling, you know, whatever. But
yeah. I think that's a good idea.
But yeah, either way, that will be, at least in my opinion, the end of the David discussion, because like I said, I really want to get into Jackass. Now, Brian, of course, Jackass was very much a thing that my brother was into. I'm sure your older brother was probably fucking into, or I'm sorry, maybe both your older brothers were fucking into it. And I'm really curious, Brian. Oh, okay, hell yeah. And I'm really curious, Brian, because obviously I'm going to go really deep into my history of Jackass. What is your personal history of Jackass?
I actually was thinking I needed to contextualize this. Listeners will know that there's a lot of stuff that I really love and I have these really strong opinions on. And then there's stuff that I kind of avoided that just kind of missed me. Jackass is kind of one of the things that missed me. Now, the thing that sticks with me about Jackass, and this is what I've really been mulling over, Taylor and I discussed doing this episode almost a month ago now, is how popular it was when I was in middle school and high school. but also how it kind of unified these two disparate groups of kids that I knew. And that's the thing, is like the actual obvious aesthetic of Jackass, especially when it starts out, and they're kind of coming back to that now, you'll see as they've gotten older and more reflective, this skate punk thing, right? It's actually like blue coded in a way. You know, it's these young guys who are kind of snarky, and if they say shit that we'd consider edgy now, but there's also like this very homoerotic vibe. You know, they hang out with Henry Rollins. And so there were definitely kids that I was friends with and acquaintances with. They were Warped Tour. They were Hot Topic kids. They were skateboard kids. They listened to a lot of rap, and, you know, I would smoke weed with them or whatever. The other segment of kids that were really into Jackass, and I don't even think these kids were picking up that, were the kids that worked on cars, right? Like the kids who like rode dirt bikes. They were like redneck kids. They wore like Budweiser cutoffs that belonged to their dad, and they smoked cigarettes, and they were obviously super homophobic, but they had the same appeal there, which is this kind of this libidinal, like, oh, these guys are fucking crazy thing. And it's this thing where they were able to cultivate this audience, and an audience much bigger than either of those demographics ultimately. But my feeling about Jackass, I think back to even high school, the thing I thought was interesting about them was that that was a brand and a franchise that you saw dancing between those two demographics. The only other thing I can think of that did that was early Adult Swim.
No, absolutely. And I'm going to basically echo everything you said there. Like, yeah, the thing about Jackass is that it was very much a monocultural thing for basically every type of, like, you know, late teen and like early, like young adult male you could possibly fucking find. Like, you know, once again, the skate punk thing, the redneck thing, the like sort of jock thing, the punk thing, goth thing. Like, if there was a demographic in like your high school that like young teen boys were fucking into, like Jackass appealed to them. Like, straight up. Like, you know, of course, Bam and his crew, the CKY crew, appealed to, once again, skate punks, goth with like him, the band and stuff like that. And of course, you know, Johnny Knoxville, once again, just very classic, like late 70s, early 80s, like hardcore and like, you know, first wave of punk kind of guy. And
yeah,
you know,
Steve-O and Knoxville are punks, like, for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And like, you know, the Jackass theme is a Minuteman song. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they,
one of
you know,
the
they play
great
like
punk bands.
Oh, absolutely. You know, they play Ramones songs, and they play like, you know, some more, you know, punk deep
Minor
cuts.
Threat.
Like, yeah, Minor Threat, absolutely. Like in the
Circle
original
Jerks,
Jackass
yeah.
movie, I learned about so many like classic punk bands just from that movie, because every segment they were playing like a punk song. And of course they would, for, you know, for shits and giggles reasons, they'd play like popular songs or whatever. If there was like a really gross segment or whatever, as like a juxtaposition. And of course, just the idea that you're young and dumb and you're filming extremely dangerous stunts is already pretty punk in itself. For basically, of course, no fucking
it's
money,
very
so.
hardcore. It's very SoCal, like hardcore
Yes,
punk.
very much so. And
the personalities, right? Just the distinctness of the personalities. Because my feeling, getting back to this monocultural thing and how it was able to appeal to all these different, just like kind of bored young boys, it's like, I think about it now, like there were like these skate kids that really liked Knoxville. All these redneck kids I went to school with, they loved Bam. I only saw Jackass, except for the movies. I saw the first three all in the theater and I enjoyed them a lot. But as far as the show, I kind of only saw it incidentally. But like for me, like Steve-O was always my guy. And I feel like there must be a clique of guys that are, let's say, more sensitive, that are like me, that's the guy they identify with. It's another funny thing is that they all kind of, they have a lot in common, but you can kind of see how these different demographics have their own guy that they kind of latch onto.
No, absolutely. Like, to me, Chris Pontius was that guy for me. Like, you know, he is just somebody who is basically the Jackass equivalent of, like, you know, Diogenes. Like, he lived in his car for a decade by choice. And, like, he's always somebody who's, like, who just grabs life by the fucking, like, balls, basically. Like, he is always willing to just go fucking nuts. Like, he would always film himself with wild animals, and he was always lucky to not get gored to death by him every fucking time. Like, you know, talk about the movies, right? Like, I have seen all 5 Jackass movies. I saw 3 through 5 in the theaters, and I saw the first 2 on, like, DVD when I was, like, fucking 12 or 13 years old. They're so fucking good. And honestly, I would say Jackass 2 is my favorite. 3 is very close. 4 and 5 are both good. 5 is definitely the weakest, but it's, like, half, like, archival footage. But the archival footage, though, is a lot of that has, like, never been released before, so there's some cool stuff.
That's cool.
And to be fair, there's some stuff that's just, like, you know, kind of regular greatest hits or, like, clip show stuff that I'm not as big a fan of, obviously, because I can just watch that shit on YouTube. But, like, once again, these guys are in their late 40s, early 50s. Like, you can't expect them to get fucking hit by cannonballs for 90 minutes when they're, like, 53 years old. You know what I fucking mean? Like, Johnny Knoxville has had literally 17 concussions in his fucking life. He's had enough. He's okay. He can take a break. He can retire. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Johnny Knoxville, real quick, I do want to get into the little brief history about Jackass. So, Jackass, once again, originally came out from the 90s skate culture. That is just obviously unambiguously true. Like, if 90s skate culture didn't exist, Jackass wouldn't exist. Like, that's just true. And there were two crews. There was the East Coast crew, which was CKY, it was Bam, it was, Ryan Dunn, it was, Rake Yan, Rab himself, Brandon DiCamillo, etc. And they made these videos called the CKY videos, which is short for Can't Kill Yourself, which was also the name of Bam Margera's brother, Ryan Margera's band CKY, who I'm not a huge fan of, but they do have that one really great song. Look, they have that one really great song, though, with that great riff, though. That's a great fucking riff.
If I heard it, I might agree with you, but I gotta just very briefly push back on this, because I see a lot of people my age who, and I know that we're, nu metal's having a moment. First of all, I gotta say, CKY are a nu metal band. They're not a punk band. I agree that their aesthetic and the scene they come out of is punk. That's nu metal, and I know nu metal's having a moment, but I'm seeing a lot of people reevaluate CKY. God bless them. God bless those guys. God bless the whole fucking crew. God bless the brand.
I totally agree. Like, I'll be honest, I'm not a huge CKY fan, but they do have that one great song with that great riff. I will fully admit.
You'll have to send it to me after we record.
Oh, hell yeah. Like, the actual song isn't great, but the riff is, like, genuinely an S-tier riff. It's so fucking good. But either way, so that was the East Coast crew, and then there was the West Coast crew, which were the Big Brother crew. Now, Big Brother was a magazine. It was also on the same, I think it was under the same label, whatever the fuck you want to call it, publisher, as Hustler magazine, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was Hustler.
Oh, that tracks.
Or was Hustler Larry Flint? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Okay, it was Hustler, okay. And that was, like, the 90s skate, like, fucking magazine publication. Like,
I think Pushead, the gore artist and, hardcore music critic, wrote for them.
Oh, absolutely. Like, so many people fucking wrote for Big Brother. Like, and even, talk about Spike Jonze, the Oscar Award, I believe, at least nominated director, wrote for fucking, like, everybody was involved with Big Brother if you were, like, an alternative person in the 90s. Like, that was just really the way to, like, fucking make money if you were going to write for zines, like, back in the day. And Johnny Knoxville, I believe in 1996, who was a struggling actor and he was a waiter at the time, got his girlfriend pregnant, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta get my life together. And his grand idea, and he was also inspired by Hunter S. Thompson and, like, gonzo journalism. His grand idea was to test self-defense equipment on himself and write and film for it for Big Brother. And it later ended up in, I believe it ended up in the...
When your partner has just told you that she's about to have your child.
Yeah! And it's even better, too, because, like, the self-defense, like, the most infamous one is that he shot himself in the chest with a fucking bulletproof vest on, but he couldn't afford the best one, so he got the cheapest bulletproof vest. He put a bunch of hustlers in there, too, so, like, to give it extra padding. And he couldn't get anybody to film it with him, so, like, he had, like, the drummer of, like, a fairly well-known, like, punk band in LA to, like, film it, but he was, like, fucking terrified, so he, like, filmed it, like, downward, so it's, like, terrible angling. They show it in the most recent movie that came out uncensored for the first time. It's pretty cool. And, like, he chambers just one bullet in, like, 6 rounds, and I swear to God, it goes through the whole chamber. And, like, every time it's like, oh my God, please just do it. And then eventually he does it, it pops, and then he just, like, fucking runs back in the car immediately. They're in, like, some random, like, desert area, and they just, like, drive off because they don't want to get arrested. Like, it is, but it's, like, so fucking rushed. Like, there's just literally no fucking way that this was, tested. There's no way that there's no OSHA involved with this. I'll just fucking say that. And eventually it was Jeff Tremaine. It was Jeff Tremaine who basically paid Johnny Knoxville the equivalent of whatever the self-defense equipment cost or whatever. And he's like, oh yeah, if you do this, I'll put it in fucking Big Brother magazine. And later, I believe the second VHS tape that Big Brother released, if I'm not mistaken. And that really catapulted Johnny Knoxville and some later Jackass members to form into Jackass in, I believe it was 1999 or 2000, if I'm not mistaken. And there was, of course, the legendary MTV show that came from that. And, you were talking about how you hadn't seen the MTV show, or maybe you just didn't watch it nearly as much. And I will agree, like, I was just too young to have really watched the TV show because, like, premiered in 2000 and it ended in August of 2001. So technically pre 9/11, and it very much feels like a pre 9/11 project because, like, as much as the movies are fucking awesome, like, let's be honest here, the TV show, there's no way that could have been filmed after 9/11. Like, not even in, like, it's a bad taste kind of way, but, like, legitimately, it's like, oh yeah, there's no way this could have been made post 9/11.
No, just like, if Jackass, like, the level of, like, hedonism, right?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like, this was very much of a more innocent, like, golden age of, like, stupid white guy entertainment that, like, 9/11 basically killed. Like, just being clear,
well,
like,
it's also, so part of the joke with Jackass, and I think as the guys have gotten older, this has become clearer. I think it's important to establish these guys are coming out of kind of alternative, is that there is, like, an intelligence to them, and part of the joke is that it's these relatively intelligent, solidly middle-class guys doing such, like, stupid, degenerate things things, right? That is like, to some degree, that is like the meta of Jackass. It's not just like, oh, it's so cool to watch this, although it is that for a lot of people. It's also, this is going to sound so pretentious, but it's kind of an awareness of like how stupid it is, right? That's why it's called Jackass. And when you look at it in retrospect, I think that's a lot clearer. The thing with it being pre 9/11 in its inception is just that's something very Gen X, right? That's like, we're doing the dumbest, most reckless, irresponsible thing we possibly could, but we're pretty reasonably smart guys. And I think that there's a sort of detachment and a sort of an insincerity that, yeah, I absolutely agree. Jackass comes out in November 2001, and everyone goes, these guys are dumbasses. Why aren't they overseas?
No, absolutely. Yeah, why aren't they fucking killing Pashtuni fucking people in Afghanistan? Like, Jesus Christ, that's probably what the fuck they would think if that shit came out in November 2001. But like, talking about obviously like the middle classness, right? And that's very true. Like, basically everybody in Jackass was middle class outside of Steve-O, who is your favorite, as you said. Steve-O's dad was, no bullshit, a international like corporate executive for multiple snack brands. Like, Steve-O was born in London and he grew up in Brazil. His first language was fucking like Portuguese, and he was educated at like 4 different international schools before he became 18.
I mean, that does kind of track if you watch interviews with all those guys. I don't think he fashions himself this way, but he is like the most posh of all the guys, right?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. He is definitely one of the more world traveled. And to be fair, like, none of the Jackass guys, even like the ones who were like second rate, like CKY guys, were like redneck, stupid, like, you know, just uneducated, uninterested guys. Like, they were all like, especially for growing up in like, you know, suburban Philadelphia and like working class, whatever, like just skate bros. Like, they were all like pretty smart, well accomplished, talented guys. Like, all of them were. Like, that was the thing, is that like, even though they were very much, working class and like, you know, middle class and had these, you know, very much, you know, once again, sort of slacker aesthetics, but these guys were like consummate showmen and like marketers, like to a fucking T. Like, you know, we've talked about other, you know, bands and talked about movies and creators who are also like consummate like showmen and marketers, but like these guys are 100% S tier, all of those things. Like, none of these guys were like, oh, here's these fucking burnouts who will never do literally anything after that. Like, even the ones who are like one bender away from like dying of an overdose, none of them were even like that level of like, fuck it, I got nothing left. Like, that's the fucking wild thing. Like, we talk about obviously like filming yourself on the internet doing stupid shit. Like, Bam Margera is the pioneer of that. He was the first person to like fucking do that shit. Like, straight up.
So much of the internet, of the dregs of online content, what was prank stuff and is now just kind of harassing people publicly, that is in some cases I think very literally indebted to Jackass. The difference is, right, the Jackass guys, what they're doing, you know, as South Park rather unfairly put it, they're doing things that anyone can do for money. Not really accurate in my opinion. They're doing it as a performance, and they're doing it to themselves and to each other, and the culture has kind of missed the point on that, right? When Jackass do that, they do it as guys that are doing things for money, but guys that are doing things for like, and I'm not saying you should go out and do this or that it's necessarily cool. They're doing things for adventure and experience and kind of to test their own limits. And the lesson that a lot of content creators have taken from that is, what if I just did that, pushed it as far as I could take it, but to other people instead of to myself, which makes it a completely different type of performance.
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, even beyond that, though, like, they are doing it as a, like, bonding exercise as part of their friendship. Because, like, even though they've had their falling outs here and there, you know, most infamously with Bam at this point, but, like, in general, like, they're all fucking friends. Like, they all, like, talk to each other and hang out, and they all work together, like, collaboratively and, like, creatively. And, like, you can tell they all, like, love each other. Like, there is, like, no love lost. There is no cynicism of, like, fuck, I gotta go get kicked in the balls today. It's like it's hanging out with your fucking best friends every day. And there's always that vibe to it. And it seems to be pretty dead on the money. Like, obviously, once again, these are marketers and these are showmen and these are people who are, you know, getting paid to do something.
They've grown and changed.
Exactly. They've grown and changed. Many of them have children, somehow have children all the times they've been kicked in the fucking nuts. They have, like, families and they've grown up. And, you know, I believe Danger Aaron, if I'm not mistaken, and, you know, obviously we don't approve of this part, but, like, he's worth tens of millions because he invested in Oregon real estate because he's from Oregon originally. So if your apartment's expensive in Portland, you could probably thank Danger Aaron for helping that one fucking out. But either way, right? Like, these guys have become wealthy and successful. And once again, Spike Jonze was one of the creators of Jackass, a critically acclaimed director of incredible films.
Visionary.
A visionary filmmaker, is one of the creators of Jackass, one of the most lowbrow things you could possibly fucking think of. So, like, it's one of those things that, like, everybody in here is, like I said, outside of maybe, like, one or two guys who just got burned out, like, you know, Brandon DiCamillo a little bit, and, like, some of the other guys who were probably just sick of all the business side bullshit of it. And, you know, once again, rest in peace to Ryan Dunn, which we'll certainly get into in just a little bit.
Yeah.
Here. But like all these guys were very clearly friends. They all liked each other. They all, even though they were hurting each other all the time as like bits, but they truly did want the best for each other. And I think that's a large part of the beauty of this fucking franchise.
So I think when we talk about the positive, you know, influence of Jackass, when we talk about the camaraderie, the friendship, and the male bonding that runs through the show at every point, and we talk about the ubiquity of it and how it was able to appeal to such a broad section of different kinds of men, teens and young adult men in its day, there is an important aspect that we have to touch on, and that is the profound homoeroticism of the entire series.
Boy, do we fucking ever. And like, obviously that was nowhere communicated better than fucking Chris Pontius and to a slightly lesser extent Steve-O. Like Wild Boys, Chris Pontius's segments in the Jackass series and later movies, like, oh my god. That man is either in a thong or literally completely fucking naked in everything ever. It is awesome to see how comfortable he is in his skin. Like in the most recent movie, Brian, no bullshit, he gets completely naked and does like a pole vaulting segment, and they do an under the dick and balls camera angle of him whacking his dick up and down before he does the pole vaulting. Like, it is so gay. It is awesome.
One of the things is that on its face, you may think, like, no way that this was conscious. It absolutely was. You cannot watch any discussion with any of these guys and think none of them were aware of the gay audience that they were cultivating or the signals they were sending to that audience that were positive or non-judgmental. I don't mean to get too flowery with it. I don't know how else to put it.
No, it is gay as hell. I mean, you know, their production company is called Dick House, and it's a fucking rainbow. Like, there's no way it could be any less subtle that they're like, maybe not. And obviously, I don't think any of these guys are actually gay. I think some of them are bisexual, but like none of them are like gay, right? And of course, nothing's wrong with that either way. But like, these guys are insanely comfortable in their skin. Like, in a lot of ways, like the guys who ripped off Jackass and like a lot of the guys who like love Jackass were, of course, you said earlier, extremely homophobic. But like, it is genuinely like Jackass in itself and the crew are some of the best examples of like positive, non-toxic masculinity you can get for straight guys in entertainment. Like, it is incredible how
especially
like non-toxic
they are.
Time.
Yeah, and once you become aware of that signaling, first you become aware of that signaling, and then you can't unsee it, and then you realize that it is a core element of Jackass. And then you see, like, well, it doesn't even have any of the, like, the ironic from the early 2000s. It's not ironically gay. There's humor to it, but it's not doing it as a joke about it. Like, they were catering to a queer audience.
Absolutely.
And they're not explicitly catering to them. They're incredibly aware of that.
No, absolutely. And the first three Jackass movies ended with Rip Taylor saying good night and goodbye, everybody. Like, straight up, like Rip Taylor, a famously gay actor. And on top of it, too, Jackass 2, the last skit is a Jackass, like, homage to a show tube. Like, they clearly are doing this on fucking purpose, of course, with all the homoeroticism and nudity along with it. Like, it is extremely gay coded. And, like, the fact they're, like, almost exclusively straight, maybe bisexual, but even then I wouldn't even go that far for the vast majority of them. Guys who are this comfortable to do it, it's fucking awesome. And it's really cool. And, like, this should have shown this generation of, like, you know, very young Gen X, you know, elder millennials that was cool. But unfortunately, I don't think it came through to that audience, if I'm just being honest with you. And to be fair, that's their fucking fault. That's not Jackass's fault. They tried. Their fault.
It's been a while since we got into real early 2000s millennial pop culture hours, which, you know, is still what we do. It used to kind of be our bread and butter. But here's the thing. The 2000s you're seeing, of course, and I mean this, for what time say this in a positive way, the increasing, like, social liberalization is now kind of reaches a point in the 2000s where the people who are inside of it, they think, well, we're here. We arrived. And they don't even have to make a point of it. People on the outside, people who are homophobic, people who are bigoted, people who are just alienated maybe from that sort of that social liberalism for whatever reason. They aren't going to see it because when those people see Jackass, they just see a bunch of cool guys. Like, how could they be at all gay or even be signaling to gay people that they're cool? They're getting, you know, they're doing things that for some reason or another people would perceive as masculine, like, you know, beating the shit out of their bodies. Someone who has no familiarity that they've ever met a gay person is going to go, well, no, that's not gay. That's just guys doing crazy stuff. A similar thing to that, probably put in the same general sphere, although I don't think I respect them as much as the Jackass guys. Seth MacFarlane, right? He was constantly signaling an affinity to kind of older gay culture, to a gay audience, but there's a huge segment of his audience that just did not see that at all. know. We're so outside of that discussion that to point it out to them would seem crazy. It would infuriate and confuse them. And I think that's the case with a certain segment of Jackass's straight audience at the time. Now, maybe less so.
No, absolutely. And like on top of it too, like obviously, even though these guys were all like, yeah, very much, punk and skate punk and alternative guys, but they also had a huge appeal of like just being hot guys. Like a lot of guys in Jackass were hot fucking guys. Like Bam, oh my God, the pretty boy of the group for fucking sure. Like every girl in like high school who was into like a skate punk or like skater guy, absolutely their number one crush was Bam Margera. No fucking question. And fucking Johnny Knoxville, he's also kind of weird looking guy, but he's also like kind of fucking hot. Like, let's be clear here. Like there was something about Johnny Knoxville, sort of lanky, sort of weird looking, like fairly ruggedy. Of course, he had a fucking massive chin. Like him and Bruce Campbell could fucking go. Early Steve-O and Chris Pontius, once again, like Chris Pontius was definitely one of the more like traditionally attractive guys. Like he's just like a surfer guy with kind of long hair and, buff and just average. And nowadays he's in his 50s. He looks fucking incredible for his age. Like he looks like he's barely aged in the last like 20 fucking years. He looks great. And Ryan Dunn, of course, was, just a sort of grizzly, fucking redneck kind of hot guy. But like,
type of guy, I don't know about you, but that's the type of guy I grew up around, was a Ryan Dunn. He was, I'm going to say, to the guys that were like nice guys, but weren't necessarily my friends, and some of them weren't even nice that I went to high school with. When I say Jackass and CKO, I had kind of this cross-section, skate punk guys to redneck guys, and, kind of brought them together when I was in high school. Those redneck guys, they loved Ryan. That was their guy. That's the one they really identified with.
Oh, and I can absolutely see why. Like, they called him random hero because, like, if there was a stunt that nobody else wanted to do, he was always the one to jump in. Like, he was the guy who was, like, the bravest one to do it. And, of course, obviously, he was the one that died, of course.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, very tragic. I mean, to be fair, it was his fault he died. But either way, we want to be very clear here, it's still tragic. But at the same time, like,
true.
Absolutely, 100%. But, like, he was always the one to do the stunts that literally nobody else wanted to do. Like, the reason that he was the one that did the, fucking toy car thing was because that was originally supposed to be Steve-O, but he was telling his dad, and his dad said, if you do that, I'm going to be disappointed in you. That was the only time he ever said he was disappointed in him, was that he was considering doing the toy car up the ass stunt. Not the years of addiction, not just myriad of criminal charges he had over the fucking years, not the, jumping into a pool a million times and eventually, fucking hitting his face and needing $50,000 worth of fucking repairs or whatever the fuck. Nothing else. It was the toy car up the ass. That was the thing. Once again, his dad was a corporate executive for multinational snack brands, so do with that information what the fuck you will also.
So who knows what kind of weird shit he's done.
I'm not even joking. A man who is on record bragging about basically saying who gives a shit about workers' rights in third world countries because his employees, if they die, they'll just find another person. Like, he's on record as saying that. Like, he is a piece of shit.
You gotta respect him for saying it out loud, I guess.
No, absolutely. At least he's fucking honest about it. But, either way, like, that was the reason Ryan Dunn did that fucking stunt. And, to be fair, it is very ironic that he died in a automobile accident. But either way, that's whatever. But either way, we're talking about the TV show. We talked about the movies, right? So I remember I said I've seen 3 through 5 in the theaters. You've seen most of the movies, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I've seen 1, 2, 3, and I saw them all theatrically. That was just the thing to do. If I came out and see them. I should see the latest one. It sounds like it's a really good time.
It's a really good time. It's, like I said, it's definitely the least wild and crazy Jackass movie for obvious reasons. But at the same time, it's cool to have their, like, one last hurrah before they all retire. It is, and genuinely, the ending is, like, genuinely really beautiful. Like, there are people who have said they, like, cried at the ending of it because it's, like, a meditation on, like, friendship and, like, the idea of, like, things ending on your own terms. It's very sweet. It's very beautiful. And all the movies are great. Like, all the fucking movies are great, no matter what. Like, the first movie, of course, a fucking classic. 2 is arguably the best. 3 is really fucking good. I think it's the highest grossing movie, if I'm not mistaken. Number 4 is really when things, once again, are still fucking great. To be very clear, there's many great guest appearances. Once again, fucking... Jasper Dolphin. Jasper Dolphin and his dad are part of the Jackass crew, and he was in part 4. And also, of course, Tyler, the Creator, had a couple stunts in Jackass 4. Number 5, they have some great guest appearances, too. Not nearly as good, in my opinion, as, Jasper Dolphin being part of the Jackass crew now, but... And Poopies, of course, you can't forget Poopies. Even though people don't want to talk about Poopies, because he's one of the more prominent recent Jackass members. But fun fact about Poopies, Brian, a person you've probably never heard of up until now, but he was the first person on Shark Week's history to actually get bitten by a shark during filming.
My God, you gotta respect that, I suppose.
He got bitten in his hand, and it bit halfway through his fucking hand, and they had to surgically reattach his fucking tendons and veins back together. Apparently, you could surgically bring veins back into somebody's hand. It was
maybe
horrible.
The greatest Jackass stunt ever. ever.
Well, and that's the thing, though, is that, like, Steve-O swam with sharks so many times. In Jackass 2, he puts a hook through his mouth and goes to swim with sharks in the ocean, but he didn't get bit, but Poopies did. Just horrible. Genuinely fucking... And to be fair, once again, a guy named Poopies is somebody who, of course, was going to get bitten by a fucking shark. On Shark Week, the first person ever, so that's fucking wild. And, like, all the movies end with some fucking wild stunt that is, like, a set piece. Like I said, in part 2, it is, of course, the, you know, show tunes one, as I mentioned earlier. In the first movie, it's, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's a bull run, if I'm not mistaken. I could be totally wrong about that. And then in number 3 and 4, I can't remember at the very moment, I'll be honest, but they're all great ending set pieces. And part 5, it's just a replay of the opening segment from part 1 with the shopping cart, which is, of course, awesome. And that is, by the way, a stunt that every fucking, like, 17-year-old in, like, the Northeast, Midwest, and West Coast did at some point, is like a shopping cart or like a wheelchair and just went down a hill, threw your friends around in it, like, straight up. Like, that was a fucking thing that everybody fucking did. There's some segments in part 5 specifically, because that's what I really want to highlight, because, of course, it's the end of the series. But, like, they filmed for the show, they didn't even show in the show because they said it was too imitatable. And I remember one of them was Johnny Knoxville got into a cardboard box and, like, got a bunch of pillows around him and they threw him down the stairs. And I'm like, oh yeah, everybody would have attempted that. Like, straight up, like, there's nobody
because it's so
who
easy
wouldn't
to
have
do.
attempted
It's so easy to replicate.
It's so easy. And yeah, just some random, bored, dumb kids would absolutely do that, and then one of them would become paralyzed and brain dead. That's absolutely what the fuck would happen.
That I think nobody does, and the one that sticks with me, the one that is etched into my brain like everyone else's. Jackass 2, it's the paper cut stunt. I don't know anyone
that was Jackass 1, but the paper cut thing, like, oh my god. The paper cut thing is so cringy.
I didn't know anyone that thought that was cool. It's an incredible scene. It's an incredible filmmaking, truly.
It is, because it's like everything else, like, you know, whatever. Yeah, just getting kicked in the nuts or going through a parade of, like, stun guns or whatever, that's whatever. But, like, the idea, like, everybody knows what a paper cut is, and it's fucking horrible. And the idea of doing that and, like, each way, like, in the webs of your
toes, your webbed feet.
And the other one was, like, in between your lips, too, like, on the sides, like a Joker smile. It's so bad. It's so bad.
Oh my god, I'm, like, curling my toes thinking about it. It's so awful. And you watch that, and it's just, like, you gotta respect it. It is, like, Gigi Allen level performance art, you know?
Absolutely.
It's like Satan Panofsky or something. You're like, oh my god, this is insane.
Now, to be fair, though, you know, Johnny Knoxville is somebody who's definitely done the most. I mean, of course, he was the one who first started the TV show and was one of the creators. But, like, who has done more crazy shit? Johnny Knoxville or the character that was directly based off of him, Travis Touchdown from No More Heroes? I don't know who. Like, they've genuinely done so much fucking shit in life.
The thing is, Knoxville has kind of reached a point with his, I guess I always call it stunt work, which is maybe not exactly the best. I don't know how you would top Knoxville now, you know what I mean? If someone came out and tried to do that now, because that's the thing, if you were to do that now, if you were to be like, we're the new Jackass, you'd have to top them. How do you do that in a way that's legal and that doesn't just kill you?
There have been, of course, as I mentioned, with, you know, Jasper Dolphin and Poopies and Rachel Wolfson, and there was this, like, other big fat guy who was like the younger Preston Lacey. But, like, all these guys, like, in the new era have done even crazier. Like, once again, Poopies had half of his arm bitten into by a shark. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
so cool.
The fat Preston Lacey guy, he jumped down a hill in the desert full of cactuses and eventually got stopped by a giant cactus. You know what I mean? Like, they're trying.
Oh my god.
They may not succeed, but they're trying to fucking do it, like, straight up. But yeah, you know, we're talking about the stunts. Like, there's obviously some extremely famous stunts. Like, you know, once again, as we talked about with the toy car up the ass. Some of my favorite ones are the guest appearance ones. Like, I fucking love those. Like, in the TV show, I would say the most infamous one is the Brad Pitt kidnapping. That's a genuinely really funny scene. And there's the Butterbean fight in Jackass 1, which is, of course, a classic. And it's so funny, like, the behind-the-scenes part of it, because, like, Butterbean, of course, is like, he isn't at this point, obviously, because, you know, he's retired, and obviously you age and you lose that muscle mass. But, you know, he was like a 400-pound boxer at the time who fucking hit like a Mack truck. And he's just like, oh yeah, let's have this scrawny fucking punk guy who's probably one slice of pizza away from passing out from being so hungry. Let's have him fight Butterbean. You know what I mean? And then he knocks him out in a fucking...
what happens, man.
Yeah, at a flea market, and then Johnny Knoxville gets up, and of course the famous line is Butterbean, okay, it's so fucking funny. Like, the fact that he said that through a concussion is wild. He had the ability to do that, because like, if you watch the footage, like, you hear him, like, it sounds like snoring, and I've worked in healthcare long enough to know that's not actually snoring. It means you basically are dying. It means your brain is trying to, like, stop you from dying. That's what the fuck that means. It's called agonal breathing. It's horrible. It's like, you're like a couple minutes away from fucking, like, dying of lack of oxygen. Like, it's really bad.
And that line they're saying is better being okay. That's the thing we gotta get back to, is that the criticism of Jackass back in the day, and I'm sure you still see it today, friends of the podcast, Trey Parker and Matt Stone made this, is the claim that these are things anyone could do, but they're just having you guys doing it. What you need to remember is, like we said, there is a self-awareness there. There is a comedic, like, worldview, Jackass. It's not just the stunts. It's the worldview of it. It's the way that they kind of piece it together. It's hard to explain. It's kind of a thing you either get or you don't, but it's absolutely more than just doing stunts that anyone could do. I reject that criticism.
I absolutely do too. Like, talk about anything that anybody can do. I'd love to see your fucking random, like, dumbass redneck guy who loves Jackass be willing to have a anti-riot fucking munitions used against them, which happened in Jackass 2. Like, something put out, like, outside of embassies to stop people from climbing up the walls. I'd love to see that person try that. I guarantee you they won't try it.
The other thing is, I wonder, obviously Jackass have had an outsized influence on the current social media content in certain ways. We've mentioned that. But is there, like, a place? If someone came out and tried to be a modern Jackass now, do you think there's a place for that could occupy what Jackass did? I mean, like, the level of popularity, the level of, like, accessibility, of penetration into mainstream pop.
I don't think so, because, like, Jackass was one of the last things that was truly monocultural in America.
Yeah.
And once again, I'm not being hyperbolic when I said this. Once again, the series ended in August of 2001, and 9/11 really was the end of, like, monoculture in America. And I mean that pretty definitively.
Yeah.
Like, 9/11, of course, we always talk about in the show because it is the defining moment of the millennial generation. I think easily the defining moment of the millennial generation, if you're an American at the very bare minimum. But, like, that was the last moment that we saw, and that outside of, once again, 9/11 conspiracy theories, which obviously I think some of them are valid, some of them are obviously out there. But, like, that was one of the only things, like, the last thing I can think of that everybody's an American saw and knew where they were when it fucking happened, have a conscious memory. And, like, everybody after that, there's literally nothing else. Like, I can't think of anything else. Like, there's no election, there's been no national tragedy, there's been no cultural moment.
Reality
no
is
piece
all
of pop
subjective
culture.
now.
Exactly, yes. Like, even some of the more prominent moments that people can think of, like Hurricane Katrina, that was once again not something that everybody has a memory of. That's been pretty much memory hold, even though that was one of the first signals that a post-apocalyptic America will be worse than anything fiction could conjure up just from the fallout of Hurricane Katrina. But of course, nobody fucking remembers that because people don't want to.
And everyone has a different memory of it. Everyone has a different understanding of COVID. Everyone has a different.
COVID. Yeah.
The last thing we all understood was 9/11 and the post 9/11 fervor. Everything's different. Every election, everyone experiences it differently. The algorithms have put us all into our own media bubble. So even the most popular things, we don't all see them. We don't all experience them or even know they exist.
Exactly. Talk about the war thing, like the Iran war, like nobody even knows why the fuck we're there. Even the people that want it don't even know why the fuck we're there. A lot of them don't. So, like, the thing about Jackass is, like, I don't think there could ever be a thing like Jackass to ever come out in this era again, and it would be as monocultural as it was. And then on top of it too, like, as we once again talked about at the very beginning of the show, this series is extremely indebted, literally critically indebted to 90s skate culture, which, like, skate culture today, of course there are kids who still skateboard, obviously, but, like, 90s skate culture was, like, unanimously considered at least either controversial or cool. Like, everybody had a fucking opinion on 90s skate culture.
Sneaking into bougie, like, upper middle class suburban houses and skating in your fucking shitty, annoying neighbor's empty pool.
If a skateboarder came out today, they'd make $20,000 in their career at best, and then they would burn out. But Tony Hawk, and even once again Bam Margera, who was a pretty talented skater for his level, but he was a dumb kid from fucking Westchester, PA, who became a multi-million-dollar skateboarder because he made a bunch of VHS tapes with his friends doing dumb stunts around town. That's not a thing you could do anymore. Somebody who had multiple TV shows, and his family became celebrities on top of that. Like, that's just not a thing you could fucking do anymore. And, like, and obviously there are people who have that thing where they, like, become big and then their friends and family become big and have their own multimedia empires. Of course it happens on the internet, but, like, nothing that's that monocultural. Like, we talk about all the time about, like, fucking the Paul brothers or Mr. Beast or whatever. And of course these are, giant creators who in pure numbers dwarf, Jackass and Bam Margera, etc. But, like, I was at a live show, it was a comedy show, I want to say 2 years ago, and, like, the comedian had a bit about what at the time was the current, Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight. And I had to explain to my mom and my cousin who were at the show who fucking Jake Paul was. But Jake Paul
whereas our moms knew what
of...
Jackass was.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Our parents knew who Jackass was. My mom has seen the movies, okay? Like, but she has never once listened to a Jake Paul song or seen a Jake Paul match or watched a Jake Paul TV show. Nothing. That's never been a fucking thing, or Mr. Beast. I guarantee my mom doesn't know who the fuck Mr. Beast is, even though his brain is worth literally tens of billions of dollars. Because that's the thing, is that this was monocultural in the way that those people just aren't, even if they have big audiences. It's crazy to think about, but that's the thing, is that if Jackass were to come out today, it just would not be successful. It would probably get a couple thousand subscribers on YouTube max, and then it would burn out.
So I gotta disagree a little bit. I think it would be successful in the current terms.
Okay,
I think it would be successful the way that, like, shit online, that content creation is successful. You take the same guys, the age that they were when Jackass started up, when they all came together, and they have some success. I don't think it's that they don't, but I absolutely don't think they have the type of success, the type of acclaim. And this is where I 100% agree with you, Taylor. When you say these are guys that did stupid stunts and hurt themselves and recorded it on camcorders and, later on, higher millimeter cameras, but essentially did the same thing, they were pushed into the stratosphere in a way that Logan Paul, Jake Paul, Mr. Beast, who, like you said, have much bigger audiences when you look at the numbers, but they're not going to these, like, kind of gala events. They aren't fixtures of the industry in the same way. And no, I think, like, that's what
Jake
what
Paul's a laughing stock, and Mr. Beast, people are finally turning on Mr. Beast. It took fucking long enough, but like,
well, when your audience is a bunch of 8-year-olds,
yeah, and also like half your employees are like outed pedophiles on top of it with Mr. Beast.
Yeah,
like,
it's a real systemic problem, it seems like.
And Beast Enterprises, and they also like Jesus. Probably their burgers are made out of like fucking ground up 4-year-olds or whatever. Like,
God, can you imagine the bad identity politics, Jackass's bad takes we'd have to endure if they came out now?
Oh my fucking God, that would be amazing. Like, they're doing gay face
culture wars.
But, we've been recording for quite a while, so... And, of course, we'll get into other Jackass series at some point, and Jackass-related series like, Viva La Bam and stuff like that. But this is just a quick crash course on the Jackass series. So, Brian, do you have any final thoughts before we get to our pluggables?
These are fun fucking movies. I bet the show is fun if I sat down and watched some old episodes of it now. Particularly, the first 2 movies. Okay, if you like stunts, if you like... I hate to say pranks, because that word's been bastardized. And the thing that pushes them over, I hope we've shown this, is the criticism here is, well, anyone could do these things. Since this guy's doing stuff, the guys are so likable, and you will never see this type of content again. It's all become harsher and more mean-spirited and more cynical. But if you're into like weird thrill-seeking stunt stuff, or like, I don't know, if your dad showed you Evel Knievel footage, you should watch the first 2 Jackass movies. That's a good fucking time. A good, stupid time.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Like, that's the thing, is that it's ironic and detached, but it's not cynical, which is something that is so hard to fucking pull off. Like, it is earnest as fuck, but it is also detached. They were able to do that.
Could have come out of the Gen X skate punk scene. It's really coming from fucking Bad Religion, Fat Records, Descendants, Fat Burger shit,
No, yeah, it's one of those things that it's really just a beautiful thing that was really a piece of like history that will just never be repeated ever again. And like, as I mentioned before, it is really, in my opinion, the peak of like positive masculinity in a way that very little media geared towards especially young men is today. Like, there's something about the fact that like all these guys, they're all great friends, like they do stupid shit, but they're all like emotionally vulnerable. They're able to talk like openly and earnestly. Like, we talk about Steve-O, like the fact that Steve-O is alive to this day and he didn't overdose is genuinely a fucking miracle. That man was one of the most addicted to everything you could possibly imagine guys, and they came together as friends to make sure he got the help that he needed in a way that was genuinely beautiful and like helpful and not toxic. Like, that's one of those things that like, if this friend group existed nowadays, Steve-O would have made it to 19 and overdosed on lean, and they would have filmed it and laughed at him and posted on the fucking internet like, what happened to fucking Little Peep? Like, that's what would have fucking happened.
Those are the
or Juice WRLD.
The two possibilities. Yeah, if these guys are young and the Jackass starts now, then it's either the Juice WRLD Lil Peep route, or after about a year they all say, we have to stop doing this, and they all stop the program. There is no way, if this happens now, with the way that like content creation, online culture, and just kind of the reality TV-ification of all of our lives constantly, the way that it's metamorphosized, the 2 options are either that they give up this series before it really gets big, or they all die. Probably through drugs, probably not even through the stunts. The idea of continuing this insane fucking franchise for years and years, while also, the members gradually growing up and in many ways maturing, and for, some of them finally challenging hard drug sentence, all while still being Jackass, would not happen. happen now. It would be too much. The constant stimulation, the constant content creation would make that impossible.
Absolutely. And like, yeah, once again, rest in peace, Ryan Dunn. But like the fact that only one of these guys genuinely died due to something crazy is genuinely shocking. Because yeah, if this existed nowadays, yeah, that would absolutely be a distinct possibility that 5 guys would die of a drug overdose or doing a stupid ass stunt and they would film and laugh at it while they're dying. Like that's what the fuck would happen.
Yeah.
Whereas at Jackass, if that happened, like there would be so much tragedy, they would never fucking release that footage. And we know this for a fact. I'm not even speculating, but there are stunts that had like tragic implications that they've never released to this day out of respect for the people that the stunt happened to. Like that is a thing that we know about for a fact. Like there's still many unreleased Jackass segments because there was just something so heinous about them that there's just nothing you can fucking laugh at. But like nobody who makes this content nowadays would fucking do that. They just wouldn't. They would release every fucking thing.
Yeah,
and like
of course turn it out like a fucking factory.
Exactly. And of course there are plenty of Jackass stunts that are like heinous and gross, but they're still once again hanging out. Like, of course fucking Dave England taking a shit in the fucking, prop toilet at this hardware store in Jackass 1. There's some nasty, or of course the fucking, what is it, poop catapult in Jackass 3 where they literally buy a bunch of dog shit to put in a porta potty and make Steve-O like do a slingshot like fucking 400 feet in the air. Like, I mean, of course there's nasty, gross stunts, but like at the same time they're all friends, they all know each other, they're all hanging out with each other, they have like fucking like OSHA on set or whatever, they have like danger precautions, they have a professional fucking film crew to film this shit. It's not just like a bunch of guys with their phone cameras out. There's no Epstein Island shit going on as far as the fuck we're aware of. Yeah, and like one of the more awesome things I've seen recently from Jackass Media is Johnny Knoxville was asked specifically about like looks maxing and like the Andrew Tates or whatever. Once again, Andrew and Tristan Tate are finally in jail and they're facing some pretty severe charges, which is fucking awesome, finally in America. But like, the thing is that Johnny Knoxville was asked about that specifically and he's like, oh yeah, those fucking losers, those guys suck shit, they're awful, I hate them, like, yeah, hammering your face or whatever, like I hammered my fucking face, that didn't end up like that or whatever. Like if somebody who is a fixture of this, what is perceived by a lot of people erroneously, obviously, is like toxic masculine culture, if he sees that, it should be obvious that this shit's phony. Like, just be clear here, like these are, once again, it's positive masculinity, it's beautiful, it's very gay coded, they're very aware of that. They recently were at the LA West Hollywood Pride and they had a float at the Pride where like the vast majority of the members of Jackass are nearly naked waving fucking LGBTQ flags out there. Like, it's fucking awesome. They are extremely aware of their legacy. They are well beloved. In fact, recently, if I'm not mistaken, Jackass Best and Last is the highest reviewed movie in the franchise. Outside of the first one, they all have positive critic reception on Rotten Tomatoes. Like, the most recent one is like an 85% Rotten Tomatoes score. Like, these are now like cultural touchstones, which at the time this was seen as like lowbrow, dumb entertainment for the biggest idiots. But like nowadays, it's kind of considered elevated art versus what comes out now, which is just wild to think about. If you
it's a generational thing. Jackass came out, people were like, oh geez, the Jackass guys are back. Wow, we've been hankering for them. Society needs them right now. And I'm kind of making a joke about it, but also like it's kind of correct, right?
It is 100%. We need that kind of positive masculinity, especially in this extremely toxic social media age. Holy fucking shit. But either way, so that will be our retrospective on the Jackass series, but not a spin-offs, because like I said, we'll get to its spin-offs at a later point. But either way, that will be the end of our episode. So let's get into our pluggables. So you can follow me at Carlos Chantor on Twitter.com. And as well, please subscribe and follow us on both our YouTube and our Spotify channels, where we are uploading every episode simultaneously to both platforms. And as well, legitimately, hell froze over because I am now quite literally filming the Tailoring Your Budget content mill. Now I am uploading absolutely. I am now going to be uploading, and well, to be fair, as always, on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I will put the link for all those in the episode description, which I have been doing now for probably the last 5 or 6 months. But yes, as of today, I have recorded the intro video for that channel. Now, I'm not going to release it until, I believe, September 1st, because I want to have a nice backlog of videos to upload in the meantime. So, look out for that once again on September 1st. I filmed it, edited it, put the background audio, did whatever as of today. So look out for that on September 1st. I am very, very excited for the next chapter in my creative journey. Now, of course, we're still going to be doing the podcast, to be very clear. I'm not just going to focus on that solely because, of course, the podcast is very fun and we actually have an audience for this, whereas, of course, I don't have an audience for a channel I haven't technically uploaded any content on. So, but yes, once again, feel free to subscribe and follow all those accounts. Now, as I've said many times throughout the show, I am going to focus on personal finance, individual finance content, investing, etc. Just whatever financial content interests me. And as I always say too, non-reactionary content, because there is just so much reactionary content when it comes to the personal finance and investing space. And I don't really want to add any more negativity to that if I don't have to. Now, Now, of course, obviously you're going to be negative in some categories, but you don't want it to be like personally insulting or disparaging towards people who genuinely need help. And, people who have just lost their way in some way or another, just waste their time or are going through a mental health crisis and just spend all their money. Like, you don't need to be negative towards those fucking people. They're already going through enough shit as it is. And I don't want to be fucking part of that. So, but yeah, stay tuned to that. And also as well, I have a Patreon for that. I will also put that in the episode description going forward and in the descriptions for the reels and shorts of all the things that I post on. And, I have some great tiers on there, some tiers that will genuinely be beneficial to you and of course will help me out. And I will put this as a tier at some point, but if I get $10,000 a month, a couple times a year, I will fly out to Portland with Brian and I will rent a Bugatti and I will make Brian ride the Bugatti for content. That will be my one piece of reactionary content.
We will do it. It's genuinely, this is not a thing that I am super excited about, but we will do it.
Absolutely. We will do it for entertainment. That'll be the one piece of reactionary bullshit, like rage baity content we will do. That is the only thing. After that series is over, we will get back to being positive again. I promise. But if you give $10,000,
maybe I'll realize I love driving and I love expensive cars.
In a city that is well known for people not breaking into cars, Portland, Oregon.
Yeah, exactly the place where you want to have an expensive car out on the side of the street.
Exactly. But either way, so yes, please follow those channels and, subscribe to my Patreon whenever you get a chance. And, speaking of people whose dreams you should also want to support and have become a reality, of course, Lucifer and the Father. Now, it's been quite a while since we recorded. I believe this might be the longest gap we've ever had. We went like almost a month without recording. I believe it was 4 weeks. But either way, Brian, is there any updates or is it still the same?
I have not heard anything. I have talked a little bit with Scott. We do message a little bit back and forth, but I have not actually heard any updates, to be totally frank with you, about Lucifer the Father. But again, this is a big project. It's an ambitious project. The whole time, I don't think they spend a whole lot of time. The last I had heard, they're looking at festivals. Like, the film is ready to go, but, I think it's done. They want to premiere it at, a faith-based festival. They're looking at that process. So Sean and Scott both do a lot of work. They're both in show business. I know Scott has a day job in addition to that. Because they don't want to rush the project, this is a very gradual project, but we are starting to see, we had Scott on very recently. We're starting to see the fruits of their labor. I think they just don't want to get ahead of it. I think Scott wants to make sure everything is lined up before he starts talking about it at this point.
No, absolutely. And of course, we want to give them as much grace as possible because, of course, they've been great to us. Of course, they've always been very communicative. They've always been fair. And once again, they're creating a project that takes a lot of effort. Once again, we record a podcast, once, 2, 3, 4 times a month or whatever. We record for 2 hours and then I spend a couple hours editing. Like, in audio, not video, just fucking audio. So once again, they are doing something far more involved than what we're doing. So we need to give them, obviously, plenty of grace. And speaking of giving them plenty of grace, of course, if you want to donate to the crowdfund, just send us an email, send us a YouTube comment, just showing us you donated. We will, within good reason, about 10, 15, 20 bucks, match those donations because we want Scott Strong River's dreams to become a reality. And speaking of people whose dreams we want to become a reality, of course, Luigi Mangione and his defense fund. Now, I don't believe there's been any significant updates since we last recorded, but, once again, Luigi is facing the federal government and at least 2 state governments, maybe at least 1, I should say, because I'm not sure if Pennsylvania will even pursue any charges because they were very minor in comparison to what he's facing in the New York and federal courts, respectively. But either way, we want to just say this as unequivocally as we can. We've been saying this now for almost 2 goddamn years because it still hasn't gone to trial yet, even though it's happened almost 2 fucking years ago. But Luigi absolutely did not do it. He is 100% innocent. They are stringing up an innocent guy who was just going through a mental health crisis that they picked up at a fucking McDonald's in Altoona. They were mad at him, frankly, because he didn't subject himself to the torture of eating Altoona-style pizza while he was there. And they're like, wow, that's weird.
Yeah, they were
a
like,
touristy bullshit thing. You must be psycho. They're like, wait, you don't like American cheese on your pizza?
Absolutely not.
There is an Altoona, Wisconsin, Brian. There is an Altoona, Wisconsin. Maybe if I go there, they might have Altoona-style pizza. Maybe.
Ooh, maybe. If your town is called Altoona, you may as well lean into it, right?
No, absolutely. But yeah, once again, he is absolutely innocent of all charges. And we want that to be very, very clear. And, as we always say, too, if you want to donate to that crowdfund, just send us a YouTube comment, send us an email showing us you donated. We will, within good reason, match those donations, too, because we want his dreams of freedom to become a reality. And both Brian and I have donated to the crowdfund, to be very clear. So we both very much
yes.
And then as well, speaking of people who you should believe in, of course, we also have a Patreon page. Now, at the moment, we don't have any patrons, but become our first patron today. We have many great tiers, and the one we always talk about is the $5 tier, which is where you get every episode 48 hours early, because we always say the first 48 hours are the most important. When you're sitting with your coworker at work, and, of course, he is, still very upset about, his fucking wife breaking up with him because he just was too much into creepypasta. And he also got written up at work because, the cookie Cookie Monster pajama pants and the Osiris shoes and the backwards baseball cap was just a little too unprofessional even for the call center. So he's just not doing very well. And you're like,
I heard he got written up for trying to replicate some Jackass stunts.
He was, not only did he get written up, but like at the same time, like, you talk to him like, I remember those Jackass stunts that you try to do. And honestly, I thought it was really cool because as a kid, I liked the Jackass movies. I liked how they were really positive portrayals of like positive masculinity and how they're all friends who clearly liked each other. And he's like, yeah, I don't believe in any of that fucking bullshit. I mostly just liked when they got kicked in the balls and like when they were doing gay shit, I just remember being like, haha, those F slurs.
Those guys are not gay. They would not do gay stuff.
They thought it was just an extension of that 90s, early 2000s homophobic gayness, but that absolutely was not the case. But of course, that guy's dumb enough to think that. But either way, when you're talking to your extremely toxic fail coworker at the call center job, you get paid $8 an hour and he gets paid $6 an hour, even though that's illegal. He still gets paid $6 an hour at this fucking shit job. But either way, when you're talking to that coworker, you would have this information 48 hours before anything else, even before he did the Jackass stunts that he got in trouble for at work. So you could tell him beforehand, hey, do this Jackass stunt, and your boss will really fucking love it and give you a raise to literally the legal minimum wage. You're now being underpaid, but you will get $7.25 an hour if you do this. I remember at this scenario, he was getting paid $10 an hour, and now he's getting paid sub-minimum wage, so that Jackass stunt really fucked him up.
Those call center jobs, they're competitive, very high turnover. When you're there for more than 6 months, they dock your pay.
No, absolutely. So either way, subscribe to our Patreon today. And then, Brian, do you have any pluggables as well?
As always, you can follow us, the podcast, at Millennials Are Old Pod, all one word, on Instagram and Threads, and on the Facebook page, Millennials Are Old. That's 3 words. Additionally, you can follow me personally at JLo Biafra on Instagram and Threads. The most effective way to reach out to us if you want to harass us, if you want to do a Gamergate, if you want information about the Patreon, if you want to hear the sales pitch, if you would like me to provide you with free financial information that I have stolen from Taylor, going through his financial records, please reach out at Millennials Are Old Pod. It's Instagram and Threads. If you want to be a guest, if you absolutely hate the show, if we are chopped and unk and you need to let us know.
No, absolutely, 100%. And speaking of people who are absolutely chopped and unk, that ends our Jackass retrospective. And Brian, once again, I'm now feeling like Jackass because I've been up since like 7 in the morning and I'm fucking exhausted. How about you, Brian? Do you want to go to sleep and get kicked in the nuts while you're asleep? Would that be fun?
Yeah, I was just about to say, I feel like I've been kicked in the nuts. Just taking this trip down memory lane, and I need to lay down.
No, absolutely. So have a good night, everybody. Sleep tight, and don't let frat bros stick a toy car up your ass.
Don't let a Matchbox car get driven up your asshole.
Yeah, definitely don't let Matchbox 20 cars up your asshole. That has nothing to do with Jackass, but I just want to do a really
Matchbox 19 at the most.
Exactly. Have a good night, everybody.